You should sign and date your terms of engagement before they are given to your client. Ask your client to sign a copy as well and provide them with a copy for their records. You should take all reasonable steps to satisfy yourself that your client is entitled to your to instruct you. Any future changes to your terms of engagement should be agreed with your client, promptly confirmed in writing, and signed by yourself and your client. Prior to commencement, the length of your appointment should be agreed and clearly detailed within the terms of engagement, together with any process for renewal, review of fees, and termination. Your terms of engagement should also define who is the employer of any on-site staff. This will usually be the landlord or the manager under the lease, rather than the managing agent. Then let's talk about the fees, charges, and taxes. As a real estate manager, you should provide full and clear written details of your fees and expenses to your potential client. As stated in section 2, 4.1, so this should include the details of the circumstances in which the client will become liable to pay you a fee or a commission. Details on the amount of your fee, particulars of any payment which do not form part of your payment for carrying out management work, but which will or may, in certain circumstances, be payable by the client to you or any other person, and particulars of the circumstances in which these payments will become payable. Particulars of the amounts of any payments falling within the point made above, or if you do not know the amount at the time the information is given, an estimate of that amount together with the details of how it will be calculated. You should make clear reference to whether your fee or any expenses are exclusive or inclusive of any relevant taxes. Where fees are ultimately to be paid by or recovered from a third party, a tenant under a service charge arrangement, you should ensure that there is absolute transparency and that fees relate only to the work done and for which the third party is strictly liable. So let's talk about the timing. So specify in your terms of engagement the point of which your entitlement to your fee is to be triggered. So for example, on completion of the rent review, or at least the renewal, or on a particular date for regular payment on a retained agreement. So let's talk about the penalties. You may have a legal rights to interest on late payment. You should check the relevant legislation to determine this and include such information in your terms of engagement. So you may check the Civil Code of the Philippines in Article 1654 up to 1688. And also in the Rental Reform Act of 2002 or the Republic Act number 9161. And we will also we're going to discuss the finalizing the terms of engagement. As stated in section 2.4.1, your terms of engagement should be signed by both yourself and your client. You may choose to include matters such as any agreed expenditures in a separate letter. It is your decision which individual clauses are included in your terms of engagement, other than those prescribed by relevant legislation. Then let's proceed to this, commissioning other documentation for other parties. When managing a real estate property, there may be a specific requirements regarding the documentation that should be provided during the management process for contracts that need to be procured. There may not be any defined form of procurement, but you should make it clear how this will be dealt within your terms of engagement. You should, of course, satisfy yourself of the ability of an external provider or a contractor to meet the necessary timescales. The way in which payment should be made for these activities should also be clearly set out. You should disclose to your client any commission or fees sharing arrangement you may have for the provision of any other documentation. Then let's discuss the instructing a sub-agent. So if you wish to appoint a sub-agent to undertake a certain specialist management activities, you should first obtain your client's authorization. The appointment of a sub-agent without authorization may be considered a breach of your duty to your client. Even where a real estate manager appoints a sub-agent with the specific authorization of the client, there may be no direct a legal relationship between the client and sub-agent. You could therefore find that you are the responsible person for the sub-agent's action and for the payment of their fees. So that's all for now in this topic. For our next discussion, we will going to discuss the module 3, which is the new lettings and lease renewals. So thank you very much for your time and see you on our next class.